Hello everyone. In this video, we'll be walking through the homework solution of part 1 of fraction video. I hope you have watched part 1 of fraction video, taken down your notes and done your homework. So let's begin. Before we begin with the homework solution of addition and subtraction, please make sure you have your notes next to you as well as the solution that was done by you. So let's begin. Question 1 says 2 over 4 plus 1 over 4. So here we know we have the same denominators. So what did the rule of addition for the same denominator says? It says that first, if the denominators are same, we need to write the denominator as it is. Then simply add the numerator. So write the numerator and the sign as it is. So we got 2 plus 1. And now perform the calculation. So we add or subtract depending on the sign. So we got plus. So what is 2 plus 1? That is 3 all over 4. Now, is this in your simplest form? Yes, it is in your simplest form. Why? Because we got an odd number on top and an even number in the bottom. So we do not need to simplify further. Therefore, your final answer is 3 over 4. Let's move on to the next solution. Question 2 was 1 over 8 plus 4 over 8. Again, we got the fractions with the same denominator. So first step, we write the denominator as it is. The next step, we write the numerator and the sign as it is. So the numerator of the first fraction is 1, sign is plus, and the numerator of the second fraction is 4. Now we perform the calculation. So we add the numerators. What is 1 plus 4? That is 5. And the denominator was 8. So our answer is 5 over 8, and it is in the simplest form. Why? Because as you can see, 5 over 8, 5 is an odd number and 8 is an even number. Therefore, we cannot divide them. So final answer is 5 over 8. Now let's look at question 3. Question 3 was 1 over 5 plus 3 over 4. So now we got different denominators. So what do? First we need to check. We go to the first denominator, 5, and ask ourselves, can 5 go into 5? Yes, it can. How many times? 1, and that too without a remainder. But can 4 go into 5? That's not possible, right? So therefore 5 is not the denominator. Now we go to 4. Can 4 go into 4? Yes, it can. How many times? 1 time, that too without a remainder. But can 5 go into 4? It cannot. So what did we say? We said that if both cannot go into each other, it means we simply multiply them. Therefore, we're going to say 5 times 4. What is the answer? 20. Good. And the next step, we ask ourselves, we go to the first fraction and say, how many times can 5 go into 20? The answer is 4. 4 times, what is the numerator of the first fraction? 1. And what is the sign? Plus. Now, how many times can the denominator of the second fraction go into 20? That's 5. So we write 5 times, what is the numerator of the second fraction? That is 3. Therefore we have 4 times 1 plus 5 times 3 all over 20. So now we simply come and multiply now. What is 4 times 1? 4. Plus, what is 5 times 3? 15. Now we simply perform the calculation. So add the numerator. What is 4 times 15? That's 19. So therefore we got 19 all over 20. And now this is to its simplest form, because on the numerator we got an odd number and in the denominator we got the even number. So we cannot simplify it further. Therefore that is your answer. Let's move on to the next solution. Now the question 4 says 2 over 5 plus 1 over 2. Again we got different denominators. So what do? We go to the first denominator of the first fraction and then we ask, can 5 go into itself? Yes, it can. Once, that too without a remainder. But can 2 go into 5 without a remainder? No, therefore 5 is not the denominator. Now we go into 2 and we ask, can 2 go into itself? It can. Once, that too without a remainder. But can 5 go into 2? 5 cannot go into 2 without a remainder. Therefore, it's not a denominator as well. So if these both cannot go into each other, what do? We simply multiply the denominator to get our common denominator or the lowest common denominator. So we simply come and say 5, the first denominator, times 2, the second denominator. The answer is 10. So now we ask ourselves, we go to the first fraction and we ask ourselves, how many times can 5 go into 10? 2 times. So that's 2 times, what is the numerator of the first fraction? That is 2. Plus, we go to the second fraction. How many times can the numerator of the second fraction go into 10? So how many times can 2 go into 10? That is 5. Times, what is the numerator of the first fraction? That is 1. Therefore, we have 2 times 2 plus 5 times 1. Now, what is the next step? We multiply on the numerator side. So, therefore, we got 10 as the denominator. And what is 2 times 2? That's 4 plus. What is 5 times 1? That's 5. So, now perform the calculation. Add the numerators. What is 4 plus 5? That's 9 over 10. As you can see, our answer is in the simplest form. It cannot be simplified further. Why? Because we got an odd number on top and even number in the bottom. So this is your answer. Let's move on to number 5. Now number 5 says 1 over 2 minus 1 over 3. So we can see we got the different denominators. Now if we see, can 2 go into itself? Yes, once, that 2 without a remainder, but 3 cannot go into 2 without a remainder. So 2 is not a denominator, our common denominator. Now you move on to 3. Can 3 go into 3? Yes, it can, one time without a remainder. But now can 2 go into 3? The answer is no. Therefore 3 is also not our common denominator. So what's the next step? We multiply the denominators. So we say 2 times 3. Our common denominator therefore is 6. Now we go to the first fraction. How many times can 2 go into 6? It can go 3 times. 3 times 1 minus, how many times can 3 go into 6? 2 times the numerator of the second fraction, which is 1. Now we perform calculation on the numerator side. So we multiply that. So what is 3 times 1? That is 3 minus 2 times 1 is 2 all over 6. Be very careful here. All the examples, all the solutions we did before had plus in them. Now we got minus. So it means we'll say 3 minus 2. That is what happens. When we rush into things, we make these small mistakes. And even though our previous steps are right, we make mistake on the final step. So be very careful when answering. So here we got a minus sign. So 3 minus 2 over 6. So what is 3 minus 2? That is 1 over 6. Therefore, that is your answer. Let's move on to the next solution. Question 6 says 5 over 6 plus 3, 2 over 3. We can see our denominators are different. So it means let's go to the first fraction and look at its denominator. Then we ask ourselves, can 6 go into itself? It can go once, that 2 without a remainder. Now can 3 go into 6? Yes, 3 can also go into 6 twice, that 2 without a remainder. Therefore, our common denominator is 6. 6. Now we ask ourselves, how many times does 6 go into 6? Once, right? So that's 1 times, what is the numerator of the first fraction? That is 5. Plus, how many times does the denominator of the second fraction go into 6? So how many times does 3 goes into 6? Twice. So we have 2 times, what is the numerator of the second fraction? 2 times 2. Now we perform the calculation on the numerator side. So therefore we multiply. What is 1 times 5? That is 5. Plus, what is 2 times 2? That is 4. All over 6. What is 5 plus 4? That is 9. All over 6. If you look at 9 over 6, is there a number that can divide both 9 and 6? Yes, there is, right? Which is 3. So, if we have a 9 divided by 3 and 6 divided by 3, our answer is, how many times can 3 go into 9? That's 3 times. And how many times can 3 go into 6? That's 2 times. Therefore, our answer here is 3 over 2. Now let's move on to example 7. So the question 7 said 1 over 24 plus 5 over 8. Here also we got different denominators. So first we go to the denominator of the first fraction and we ask ourselves, can 24 go into itself? Yes, it can once, that too without a remainder. Now can 8 go into 24 without a remainder? It can, 3 times. Hence both numbers can go into 24, therefore our common denominator is 24. So we write 24 and we ask ourselves, how many times does 24 goes into 24? Once. So we write 1 times the numerator of the first fraction, 1, plus how many times does 8 go into 24? That is 3 times the numerator of the second fraction, 5. So let's multiply the numerator. 1 times 1 is 1, plus 3 times 5 is 15 all over 24. Now what is 1 plus 15? That's 16 all over 24. Now we can see both are even numbers, so there should be a common number that divides both. What is that number that divides both the numbers? So the number that can divide both 16 and 24 is 8. So the greatest common divisor between the two is 8. So therefore 16 can be divisible by 8 and 24 can be divisible by 8. So the answer is, how many times can 8 go into 16? 2 times. And how many times can 8 go into 24? 3 times. Therefore our answer is 2 over 3. Let's move on to the next solution. Now question 8 says 1 over 5 minus 1 over 10. So again we got different denominators. So now we go to the first denominator and we ask, can 5 go into 5? Yes, once, that too without a remainder. But can 10 go into 5 without a remainder? No, therefore 5 is not our common denominator. So we move on to the next denominator. Now we ask ourselves, can 10 go into 10? Yes, once without a remainder. Now can 5 go into 10? Yes, 5 can also go into 10 without a remainder, there too twice. Therefore our common denominator is 10. So we write 10 as our common denominator. Now we ask ourselves, how many times does the denominator of the first fraction go into 10? It is twice, right? So 2 times the numerator of the first fraction minus how many times does the 10 go into 10? That is once, times the numerator of the second fraction, that is 1. Now we solve the multiplication in the numerator. What is 2 times 1? That is 2, minus what is 1 times 1? That's 1. What is 10 is 10. Now what is 2 minus 1? That is 1 over 10. We cannot simplify any further. Therefore our answer is 1 over 10. Let's move on to question 9. Now question 9, we have again different denominators. So first we go to the first denominator. Can 3 go into 3? Once without a remainder, right? Now can 8 go into 3? No, it cannot go without a remainder. So therefore 3 is not our denominator. Now we move on to 8. Can 8 go into itself? Yes, it can go once. Therefore 8 is fine, but can 3 go into 8 without a remainder? It cannot. So we have seen that both numbers cannot go into each other without a remainder. So what do? We simply multiply the denominators. So we say 3 times 8, which is 24. Now we ask ourselves, how many times does 3 go into 24? 8 times, right? So because 8 times the numerator of the first fraction, 1, the sign is minus. Now how many times does 8 goes into 24? That is 3 times, what is the numerator of the second fraction? 2. So now we solve the multiplication in the numerator. So because 8 times 1 is 8, minus 3 times 2 is 6, and 24 our common denominator. Now what is 8 minus 6? 8 minus 6 is 2 over 24. Now we have both even numbers. Hence we can see they both can be divisible. So what is the greatest common divisor that can be divided? So the number is 2. So we can divide both by 2, and 24 by 2. Therefore, the answer is 1 over 12. Right? Let's move on to the next solution. Question 10 says 1 over 2 plus 3 over 4. We got two different denominators. So we go to the first denominator and we ask ourselves, can 2 go into 2? Yes, once, and then 2 without a remainder. But can 4 go into 2? No, it cannot go without a remainder. Therefore, 2 is not our denominator. So we move on to 4. Can 4 go into itself? Once, yes, then without a remainder. And now can 2 go into 4? Yes, twice, that 2 without a remainder. Therefore, our common denominator is 4. So we write 4 as our common denominator. The next step, we ask ourselves, how many times does 2 go into 4? It goes twice. Times, what is the numerator of the first fraction? 1. Plus, how many times does 4 go into 4? That is once. Times, what is the numerator of the second fraction? 3. Now we simply solve the multiplication in the numerator. What is 2 times 1? That is 2 plus, what is 1 times 3? That's 3 all over 4. So now simply add the numerator. What is 2 plus 3? That is 5 all over 4. As we can see, we are already in our simpler form because we have an odd number on top and even number in the bottom. So now let's move on to question 11. Question 11 is very easy because you can see we have the same denominator. So what did the rule say? We simply put the denominator as it is, and we simply put the numerator and the sign as they are. So we put 1 plus 2 plus 3. Now the next step is to perform the calculation. So add the numerators, right? What is 1 plus 2? That is 3. 3 plus 3 all over 5. What is 3 plus 3? That is 6 over 5. Now again, we can see that 6 over 5 is in its simplest form. Why? Because on top we got even number and in below we got odd number. So there is no number that can divide both. So therefore our answer is 6 over 5. Let's move on to the last two questions. Question 12 has the same denominators. So we can see we got our denominators as 3. So we simply put our denominators as they are. And now we just put our numerator as they are for the sign. So the numerator of the first fraction is 8, the sign is minus 7. Now we simply perform the calculation. So we subtract 8 from 7. So 8 minus 7 is 1 over 3. This is our answer, and it's to the simplest form because 1 is the greatest divisor here. We cannot divide by anything greater than 1 here, right? Therefore our answer is 1 over 3. Now if you look at question 13, here also we got the denominators that are the same. So our denominators are 2. Therefore our common denominator in this term is 2. So we simply put the numerator what? The sign. So we have 1 plus 3. Now we simply perform the calculation. So we add 1 plus 3. What is 1 plus 3? We got 4 over 2. Now we know 4 over 2. How many times can 2 go into 4? So if you say the table of 2, 2 times 1 is 2 and 2 times 2 is 4. So 2 can go into 4 twice. Therefore our answer is 2. I hope all your answers to the homework solution were correct. If not, don't lose hope. Go and watch the video again and see where you have made the mistake. Take down the notes and make sure you practice more and more. If you need more examples, please comment down in the comment box below so I can upload more videos with more solutions. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Thank you very much for watching the video. Subscribe to my channel, like and share with your friends. Until next time, stay safe and study.